I'm Michael Reese.
And I'm Woods Davis.
And this is the Digital President Podcast.
We've cracked the code for generating customers online for every business model.
In fact, we wrote the book on it.
We've built multiple multi-million-dollar businesses in as little as 90 days. And the one truth that we discovered is
the best business model is doing what you love and living your life by strategy.
You truly can follow your passion and create the life of your dreams,
as long as you have the right strategy.
If you're a real estate agent and you'd like to learn how you can partner with us to help you implement our strategies and systems in your business so you can make a lot more money and have a lot more time freedom, all without ever paying us a penny or giving up a percentage of your commission, go to partnershipdetails.com and schedule a call with us today. While it's fresh in your mind, go to partnershipdetails.com. Now on to the podcast. Welcome to episode 40 of the Digital President Podcast. I'm your host, Woods Davis, here with Michael Reese. And today we're going to talk about some of the foundations of success in real estate, which really all comes down to what's in between the ears. Talking a little bit about the mindset and, more importantly, I think some practical tools for making sure that you have your mind right so you can be doing the right things in the right order and get the right results and the life and the business that you want. So, Michael, this morning we were literally having a conversation and we were talking a little bit about mindset. And we were talking about specifically, I know that throughout life, there's going to be lots of curveballs that come at you. Throughout business, for sure, being an entrepreneur, you're going to have stuff that you got to deal with every day. And it's super important to be able to go into these situations with the right mindset in order to get the results that you want. And I know that one thing that was really cool that you had shared with me, like an actual quote the other day that was kind of like an affirmation. And I'd love it if you could share that and maybe just talk a little bit about, how what tools you use to kind of keep your mind right, what little systems you have in place to make sure that you got just kind of that killer winner mindset, positive all the time.
Yeah, it is one of those things that it's like a muscle, you get better. And unfortunately, it's also like in regards to a muscle, it's something that has to be worked out every day or you'll have fatigue. I mean, what happens is right now, I think it has to do with, all of it has to do with mindset and the focus on negative thought. I think it's also referred to as cognitive restructuring. I would like to call it cognitive reframing. And what happens is that, anxiety comes from the future, right? Depression usually comes from, people dwelling on the past, right? And so, the truth is that all we have is right now. And, that's why I became such a fan of the book, Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle. And that really introduced me into the concept of the inner game at a different level. I've given the book or recommended the book to a lot of people. I guess I'm recommending it now. If you haven't read his book, The Power of Now or A New Earth, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think it was getting introduced to those books that made me aware. And I think that's where all things happen. Right now, a lot of people, when they wake up in the morning, I think that they just aren't aware that they're thinking about the worst things that are going on in their life and their future pacing those things and running different scenarios. And the truth is from your body, your physical body, your body can't tell the difference, right? In fact, whether this is true or not, at least I believe it's true. And I think that in the context of that, there's probably some wisdom. But my mom shared with me one time when I was sharing with her a story that frustrated me. She basically said, don't share that anymore. She said, your mind doesn't know whether it's re-happening or not happening. But all the stress and the feelings that are tied to this scenario are going to continue to be taxing and hard. So, when you talk about the past, let's talk about the past and learn from it and let's move on. And I think a lot of people, they live in the past or they are at some sort trying to predict the future, force their will upon the world. And so I just decided to surrender. Recently, I went through something that gave me a lot of compassion. I think compassion is above empathy. I think empathy is trying to understand other people and how they feel. I hadn't had the feeling of being in a situation where I didn't feel in control, right? Control financially. And anyway, without going into it in too great detail, I had a financial opportunity that was probably one of the best financial opportunities that required me to do things that I had never done before in a way that have never been done before. The way that I felt it, I almost felt like a first-time home buyer who had no idea of what the process was like buying a house. And it gave me empathy for that person and how much information can really help somebody. But the truth is that what helped me go through, that situation, which for some reason caused a lot of stress, I was able to handle it, and I was able to handle it, I feel like, very effectively. And by always worrying about the things that I can control and not worrying about the things that I could not control, and having peace. And so there was a lot of different things. What I read to you was something I stole from somebody. I'll have to read it because I haven't memorized it, but I thought it was so powerful. Someone had made a post and I read it. And as I read it, it just made me feel better. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to read that every day. And it was, I declare I will choose faith over fear. I will meditate on what is positive and what is good about my situation. I will use my energy not to worry, but to believe. Fear has no part in my life. I will not dwell on negative, discouraging thoughts. My mind is set on what God says about me. I know his plan for me is success, victory, and abundance. And this is my declaration. And, for me, I think it's the power, when you feel disempowered, when you feel like things are happening that are out of your control, the question that you have to ask yourself is that true? And I think that this can happen in all areas of your life. I think it can happen with your health and fitness. I personally know people that are overweight, obese, to the point where over time they've kind of lived in this area, and it's taken a toll on their psyche, right? And it's really affected literally it's robbed them. It's robbed them of their life. And I think a lot of it has to do with the narratives and the way that they see the world and the stories in which they, put out there. And you can hear it when you listen to people's language. I choose to come from a more empowering standpoint in situations that are stressful. First of all, one of the most positive things that, it has been one of my best experiences is that everything always works out. It really does. And, if it's financial, if money solves the problem, it's not a real problem. There's somebody who woke up today with a situation that was completely out of their control. And it had they could have all the money in the world and it wouldn't fix their situation. And I think it's good to recognize and reframe, in your mind that, all problems have solutions. Now, at the end of the day, if something that you're trying to force your will upon the world to make happen, if it doesn't happen, you have to understand that everything happens for a reason. And whether you know that reason today, I can tell you right now from personal experience, things that were perceived as, big, huge blows or defeats in the pursuit of success based upon my definition have in reality been blessings, setting me up for something that I just didn't know. And, so for me, it's about, affirmations for me are really to govern the identity that I have for myself, right? Like, I have this person that every day that I want to be, and then I have real life and shit happens. And when things happen and there's this person that some days I'm stronger in that identity than I am in others, reminding myself cognitively of the beliefs and the behaviors and the way that I see the world on a persistent basis is empowering for me. Now, this has been an unbelievable tool for me for getting into shape, for me becoming a better husband, a better father, and also just navigating opportunities in which you're going into the abyss of unknown with, so many abilities to run different scenarios on why it would be easier to not act, right? Why it would be easier to not do anything as adverse to actually taking action in the step of the direction that you want to go. But with that comes uncertainty, change, and stuff like that. And I see it all the time. And I think that I think for other people, it can be probably debilitating, to be honest with you. And that also is a vortex of a cycle that happens mentally. And once that cycle happens, I feel like the only way to break the cycle is to, start pouring the goodness into the mind. I saw an image one time of a man who brought a dirty, imagine like a cylinder, a glass see-through cylinder with water, and they put a physical cup of dirt in it and stirred it up, and the water was purely dirty. And they just started dumping clean water into it, just pouring clean water into it. And as they did, the water just started to clear up and to clear up and to clear up. And so, from an affirmation standpoint, I just think it's a good way to dump that positivity in and do it in a way where it's actionable, where you're reminding yourself of the filters that you've created for your life and the way that you're going to behave and act based upon who you want to be. I think a lot of pain comes from when we have this identity crisis, where we have this identity that we want to be, and things happen in the past that don't align with that identity, and that depresses us because we live on that past. Unfortunately, some of my friends who are super successful are broken. They're just plain broken. And when I look at them and look at them from afar and say, what makes this individual so successful? I would say that you might say they don't give an SHIT, but it's not that they don't give an SHIT. They don't dwell on the loss. They don't dwell on the worst positive or negative outcome. They and if it does happen, they don't even dwell on that. They move on. They take a different stance in life that shit happens. Get over it. And it's really that simple. Forgive yourself, move on. You have whatever is in the past is in the past. You can't change it. And they have a broken way in which they've just, maybe some people have had so many bad things happen that they've had to create these devices and processes internally. Other people can have the same things happen, and it could take them off their game for a year, for months, put them down, and they just literally, it's almost like, and in my children, my middle son is like that. My middle son is not going to dwell on a scolding, a timeout, a spanking. I mean, he's going to move on right when it's done. And I see that in him as a positive success principle. And I think for anybody out there that's living their life right now, I want to tell you that everybody that first of all, if you have a problem, there's someone else that has worse problems. And I can guarantee you that you for the most part, you in context with what you're really being challenged with, it could be worse, right? It could always be worse, and you don't want to be humbled. You want to be grateful and look at these as experiences, as part of the journey, and that you are on your own journey. And so through that, I've created affirmations and I am statements that allow me to kind of put up those guardrails, so that when I do, end up getting spun around off course, which isn't about if that's going to happen, it's when it does happen, I have those tools available to me to stay the course. And, it's not about falling down. It's about how long it takes you to get back up, right? It's not about getting off your workout. It's about how long does it take you to get back on your workout. It's not about, setting a goal, creating a diet and a nutritional plan, and then breaking that diet. It's how long does it take you to get back on that diet? And a lot of those things are all psychological. You eat a bad meal. You're like, all right, screw it. I've already messed it up. Since I ate like crap at lunch, now I'm going to eat like crap again. Versus, change happens in an instance. People's decisions to change, that takes forever. And I choose, no matter what happened yesterday, to make the right choice today, right? Boom. positive affirmation that just says, I don't care about all of these other things. I'm not dwelling on them. I'm not going to let the past affect my decision of now. And all I have is right now. And as right now, I'm back on. And I think if people understand, getting back on your game is part of the game, and that nobody stays on their game. And the real game is, what tools do you have? Affirmations to me are the resources, the tools, the frameworks to help you really win before you start, by winning the mind game, so that you can make the right choices. And that was what I shared with you this morning. And, those are just the tools that I use in real life for staying on top of everything. And again, when I get off my game, I review those thoughts. I take them out and put them in front of me and review how was this disempowering? Where did that narrative come from? Why did I choose to act that way? What would I rather have had if I had a magic wand of the outcome? What could I have done differently? And then as I start to massage those things, I start to create my own future statements, my future affirmations on how I can handle those situations going forward.
Man, I think that's really powerful. I think a lot of people struggle with maintaining a positive mindset, especially when, we're going out and slaying dragons every day. We're humans. We're imperfect. When you have a business and you're an entrepreneur, or you're a salesperson, or you're having lots of collisions with other humans, so there's going to be lots of room for error. I think one thing that really stood out to me that you were talking about is the whole idea of creating that identity for yourself. And that gives you a lot of power when you can determine who you really are, or who you're trying to be. And then declaring that every day. It's something that you can literally do every day to create your future. One thing that's been really helpful for me is, rather than me, and I'm just speaking from my position as kind of a man of faith, what's been really helpful is to actually turn to what God says about me. So the cool thing about me, man, is like, I can go to the scriptures and I can look up all these things that are literal. And listen, whether you are a believer or not, these things are still, these are still truths, that exist. And so when I literally read and I say out loud, what God says about me, that he's blessing all the works of my hands, that I'm being made rich in every way so I can be generous on every occasion, that I'm forgiven as I forgive others. Like those types of things help me be really clear. Like, man, this is what God says about me. Like, this isn't just me trying to make up this identity of like, man, this is what I wish I was like. And then there's this little maybe area where it's like, but man, am I really that? Or am I just fooling myself? For me, what helps fill that gap is my faith in God, and being able to use that as a way to create my affirmations, my confessions, my morning confessions. And I think that one thing that I think is super important that you really touched on too, and that success principle of being able to move forward, being able to move on. Man, I mess up all the time, and I have to I forgive myself. I forgive myself and then start back. And it's really helpful too when you have these tools like affirmations to do that. And outside of the affirmations become also just a part of your whole routines, rituals, things that keep you plugged in, that give you those wins are super helpful for your mindset overall. Like, I know that you obviously co-authored the book, Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, which is one of the top recommended books by Zillow for all real estate agents. Definitely a must read for anybody that's out there. If you guys, if you're a new agent, if you're a seasoned agent, Even if you just feel like you lack control at times, you need a good foundation in place. Getting your morning routine, getting your morning rituals dialed in is essential. And the Miracle Morning for real estate agents will really help you do that. And part of that system that you talk about in your book is affirmations. And so, outside of these affirmations and kind of this positive reframing and self-talk, what do you think are some of the other, things that help you stay on your game, once you've used these affirmations to kind of get your mind right? What other things, as far as your rituals, your even your morning routine that are helpful for you?
The funny thing is that Woods, we're actually doing a video on morning routine. So I think this is a plug. We've already shot it. It's being edited. And so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because we do put out great content like this, some podcast episodes and other videos. And you'll be notified, especially if you turn on notifications. So I'm not going to spoil that video as far as specifically, because it's very tactical, and I think you recommended that book as a good one. But I will address the question and maybe the adverse. And the things that made it hard were the same as affirmations. Growing up, I was kind of always taught, you don't let anybody pick on you, right? Like like if someone hits you, you hit them back, right? And if somebody hits you, you hit them back. You hit them back harder. And, I was watching Jocko, and Jocko, it is
Jocko Willink.
So from Extreme Ownership, and Jocko's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he has a YouTube video out where he talks about what he would do if somebody was trying to fight him. And dude crushed it. And the first thing is, he said, in every scenario, he says, I begin with walking away. I begin with trying to run away, get out of the situation. So many people's identity is tied up into being tough. I don't think that you have to lower your standards to a person who's behaving in a bad way to demonstrate you're tough to them, right? This is an affirmation. In fact, I'm not saying that I will. I mean, I remember walking to the bus stop when I was a kid and punching the kid the first time, remembering my dad telling me, if they mess with you, and they hit you, hit them back. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, right? But because I was kind of owning that mindset, all of the other options weren't on the table, because I was just waiting for him, hit me, just hit me, do something, hit me, right? Because I was waiting to forecast that into the future. And, I have good friends in their identity. Their identity is tied up in kind of being a rebel, being a bad boy, right? And, I think that, some of those times, those identities, those affirmations, you kind of working yourself up on what you're going to do if something were to happen. And, I think that it can work against you, right? So I think not only can you have affirmations, you might have an identity situation where, you're hard to work with, you're hard to manage. Even if the person had all of the great intentions in the world with you, you can turn anything positive into a negative. I've seen people do it. I personally have witnessed trying to help somebody who was I can't help this person. I mean, everything I say, they turn it into this or versus that. And people end up in this spiral, of a negativity. I think an affirmation is again, it's more of a positive thing. And, unfortunately, we're all human, and that is hard. I think that there's, different people have different abilities to manage their own personal emotions. And I think whenever you're talking about someone being stressed or happy or whatever it is, whether they're happy because they got drugs, they're still happy. Whether they're happy because, they just, their kid graduated from school, they're still happy. People have different reasons and different things that they've kind of created in their world that make them happy. And that's, for me, I personally have learned to tie happiness to the process, right? I know that the process is harder than you think it's going to be. It takes twice as hard. I know that the process isn't a straight line. I know that there's going to be things that happen that are totally outside of my control. And so understanding for me that, you know, whether you call it the journey, whether you call it the process, fall in love with it. I think when you can kind of understand how things happen in the world that happen to you, you can take control at least over how you're going to perceive them, what your perspective, how you're going to respond, how you're going to react. And, you know, from affirmations, I think that that's coming from a positive place, getting into a place where, you know, there's got to be somebody that you admire and something you admire about them, whether it's in their from a health perspective, whether it's, you know, in a business perspective, and try to identify that things that maybe they believe differently than you. Maybe you believe them aspirationally, but they believe them and live them. And I think it's a constant exercise. And I think that if you're watching this video, by default, you're already on the path, not because our video is better than someone else's video, but you're a learner. And at the end of the day, in your journey, you're learning. And you might be at this window where maybe you've learned something about raising a daughter that I haven't learned yet, because I'm about to have a daughter and I surely could learn from you. But maybe I've learned something in business or in creating discipline and habits that you haven't learned. And it's the very act that you're a seeker and seeking out a better way. And I would tell anybody that is a seeker that, you know, I don't care what it is that you're looking for. You know, whether you're looking for good or you're looking for trouble, whatever it is you're looking for, you're certainly going to find it. But the clear path that you can or vision that you can have for your life, the better that you can work backwards into the things that you need to do today in order to start working towards getting there. And I think that's just a way of believing. You know, an affirmation for me personally is, and it's unfortunate because, you know, it creates, I think that anything's possible, right? I really do. No matter whether you have, you know, $200 or you have a dime or you have no money, I think that it's already been demonstrated by others. And I think if you don't have something in your life, it's because you haven't learned something yet. So when I get to a place in my life where there's something that I want, instead of focusing on the fact that I don't have it and somebody else does, and maybe having envy, which would be, you know, maybe hating or something, you know, I tell my I saw this on Facebook the other day and it was awesome. I took a little screenshot of it and it said, you can't compete with me because I want everyone to win. You can't compete with me because I want everyone to win. And that just makes me, that inside the way that I feel, you know, so many people are competing with the people on social media, on Facebook, all of these other things that create, you know, this, this, what we would call as a hater. I think I got a book over here called Hug Your Haters. And yeah. And I don't think anything positive comes out of that. It certainly doesn't help yourself. You know, the question is anytime that you have those types of emotional feelings about something, is to be, you know, to try to grow through them, you know, and say, man, you know, this is probably not the best way to feel right now. I don't know why I feel. Why does this make me feel this way? You're certainly going to feel a certain way. You can't stop it, but you can reframe it. You can restructure it. And, you know, for me, you know, that's constantly every single day learning from other people. I believe I can learn from anybody about anything. They don't have to be, I don't think financially, whether they make more money or less money, has nothing to do with my ability to learn from people. And so I seek wisdom and truth, and I get personal fulfillment on my own personal development and growing. And so I circle back to, if you're watching this, then you already have what it takes. You just have to stay on your journey of becoming the best version of yourself. And I think that for me, you know, that's what makes me happy, is that every single day I can get better. And every day I'm proactively playing offense and focusing on the things that are in my control, not out of my control.
Man, that's great. And I think that there's a lot of people that probably could have used this podcast today. Man, I appreciate you sharing, dropping some great knowledge and wisdom for everybody here today. And guys, we definitely want you to win. We want you to win in real estate. We want you to win in life. And we're just sharing what we've learned to help you get there. So definitely take the time to get your affirmations in place. Think about your identity, your core identity, who you really want to be, and write them down. Drop them in your notes. Create a little Google Doc. Drop them in a notepad on your phone. Reference them every day. Say them out loud. There's power in there's power in the word, and there's power in speaking that word into existence. It's certainly going to plant the right stuff into your mind and help you get on the path to creating the results that you want in your life. So, Michael, definitely appreciate you sharing some great wisdom today. And like we always say, the best life to live
is a life by strategy.